For the longest time, I have entertained the idea of having the ability to run multiple screens whenever I have different apps needed in order to work on a project that requires one program or the other, and would like to be able to see what I'm doing, but one screen doesn't cut it. And so I decided to look further into it, to where I found out it's possible to use a VR headset to act as a multi-screen with a bunch of virtual monitors or even multiple apps being shown at once. At first, I thought you needed to use Windows, but it turns out it's possible to run it on Linux using a different method that's fully open source and doesn't require as much as I initially thought at first. And so this is how I got it to work with what I got so far. This isn't exactly a tutorial on how to get this working yourself, as I had to rely on this website to where I got started. And if you want to do this yourself, my solution might not work for you. So anyways, definitely both the PC and the headset needs WIVRn in their respective platforms, as well as Xrizer, which acts as a window compositor needed to display anything on the headset, and definitely WayVR to interact with the desktop in VR. Having Steam is optional unless you want to install something like VRChat or any other game for that matter. So what I did was I had to look for the IP address of the computer that I'm going to be connecting with, but labeling it would help a lot. And the instructions here would state that in order to be able to use it or to connect with it, you still needed to get a USB-C connector and plug it into the headset directly. And then after that, it should give you a pairing number in order to be able to put the pin. And of course, you definitely need to allow the connection to go through from the pop-up in the headset. And once you click next on all that, you still need to go to the settings and do a couple of other adjustments. Like for instance, for the encoder, pick the one that is suited for your graphics card. Then for application start, put WayVR, and for advanced options, which is optional, it's possible to use a keyboard and mouse to connect directly to the headset in order to control the desktop, but it's up to you if you want to do it that way. And don't forget to set OpenVR compatibility library to Xrizer, and then press OK. And if you want to be able to use this with a Steam game, you definitely need to copy the Steam information into the launch option, in which that's what I did for this next demonstration. For some reason, my desktop keeps spawning at the bottom of the floor, and it's probably just some settings on my end. There's a good chance that it won't exactly do that for you. I'll figure out how to fix that later on. I'm running XFCE in this desktop window, but it should work on other desktop environments that's either X11 or WLAN compatible. This stage, you don't need to have a monitor on and can turn it off and still be usable. Don't mind the scuffed look of Eden, as I've made my attempt to port her model into VRChat, but at the time I didn't know much about shaders or really getting the exact look I wanted, and I'm left with this. So anyways, the third person view on Linux is all possible thanks to Hoshino Lina, as she made the script to make third person in VRChat on Linux doable, and all I had to do was add this extra line so Pipewire can pick it up, as you can see here. And not even that long ago, you couldn't do this on Linux natively. At the time of demonstrating this, I was using hardware that wasn't suited to run both VRChat and WayVR all at the same time, and it tends to struggle, and the computer fans were blowing at high speeds while running OBS at 1080p, pushing it to its absolute limits. And I have to come to terms that I won't be able to run run PCVR on this setup, and will have to avoid using PCVR until I get a more suited system to be able to live stream it or do anything production related. Even if the hardware is not suited for this, this is more of a proof of concept, and I'm very sure it'll get better from here once better methods or newer updates may possibly resolve this, or I just get a better system for the best results to even daily drive if possible. And yes, you can run some X11 apps as well as Wayland supported programs with some various degrees of success. And in case it's not possible to open that particular program through WayVR and have it floating somewhere, there's still the option to run it on the desktop itself, in which I'm using XFCE4 for my flat screen desktop, and I'm very sure it can also run with other desktop environments and use it that way as well. And if you have capable hardware, potentially play all your flat screen games or run 3D apps if you prefer. So the possibilities are endless. But overall, the idea of using a desktop in VR is quite an interesting thing to me as I try out a couple of things, and with the right hardware and setups, this could become a daily driver if some of the bugs get resolved. And the idea of spatial computing may as well be the next step on how we interact with computers or anything that can connect to the internet for that matter. So this is the closest thing I've gotten to Linux in VR, with nothing more than a Quest 3 and some apps running under the network on hardware that isn't properly supported, even if it's just to get a glimpse on what the future of desktop VR and spatial computing on Linux could be like. And maybe one day the hardware for it may come a long way and all these limitations gets resolved, but we'll have to wait and see. And special thanks to those that pledge and contributing into making these projects possible and kept me going to try something like this out to post about. Till then, this is LR7 running a Linux desktop in VR and logging out.
Capable of doing VR. Good. My system is just happy. It's like begging for its life right now. Oh my goodness, this is so bad. This is really bad. Oh goodness. Yeah, my computer could shut down in a minute now.